Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Flame Entertainment and Sports. It's your boy Rob here. Hope everyone's doing good out there. Please make sure to keep up with us on Instagram and TikTok at the flame_ES. We'd also appreciate if you could subscribe to our podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. With all that said, on today's show, we're gonna be, doing an episode where we'll have an entertainment topic and a sports topic. I know it's been a couple weeks, being that we've been, really focusing on Dancing with the Stars. In the entertainment world, we're going to be, talking about Wicked for Good. I was able to see it last week and I absolutely loved it. For those of you that don't know, last year I did a whole episode dedicated to the first Wicked movie. And now, yeah, I'm going to be, giving my thoughts on the second one, Wicked for Good. I absolutely loved it. And then in the sports world, we're going to be getting into the NFL. I haven't covered the NFL as a whole in a while here on the podcast. So I'm going to kind of be looking at the standings and, kind of be looking at some of the races now, for the playoffs. And, being that we have 4 weeks left of the season, there's a lot of tight races going on right now. And also, I'm going to be giving you a couple teams who I really, feel extra high on in comparison to some other teams that may have better records, or to some other teams who are at the top of standings in their, given divisions or conferences. So yeah, with all that said, let's start off in the entertainment world as I give my thoughts on Wicked for Good. All right, guys, so let's start off with Wicked for Good. So as I said in the intro, last year I talked about the first Wicked here on the podcast, so I thought it was only right that I give the second part, right, Wicked for Good. It's flowers on here as well on the podcast, and just like the first one, I absolutely love Wicked for Good. It's such a special story. Last year, prior to, watching Wicked for the first time, I had no prior knowledge. I didn't even know the names of the characters. I didn't know Glinda, Elphaba. I knew nothing of the story of Wicked, and that's how I liked it. I ended up working out for me that I've never seen the Broadway show, or I've never really looked up anything related to it. I prefer, not to know info prior to, going to watch something new. So it really worked out for me. And then I also had no idea what was going to happen in this, second part going into the movie theater last week. And I'm absolutely happy that I was able to stay spoiler free for both Wicked movies here. So yeah, with all that said, yeah, what drew me in last year was like the meaning behind Wicked, and how, Elphaba, she's basically like looked at as an outcast because she looks different than everyone else, being that that she's green, and they kind of treated her like she's just like like a piece of garbage. And then you saw the way that Oz, right, treated all the animals. You just saw that basically the story is that, we're all equal at the end of the day, and we should all be, treated the same way, regardless of what we look like, or what we do, or what we talk like, what we sound like, whatever it may be. So that really drew me in, right, last year watching the first Wicked. And then with that said, I feel like Wicked for Good emphasized the message, right, the meaning behind Wicked even more. And it truly, emphasized how, yeah, like Oz and the leaders, or the citizens, right? They kind of look down on Elphaba. They called her the evil witch just because she's green. And then you even think, I think of this growing up as a little kid. Like I said, I had never watched Wicked or anything like that, but I do remember like seeing like the Halloween costumes and shows at school that, would do like a Wicked show. And we were all kind of taught like, oh, like the green witch is bad. But obviously as a kid, you really don't know what the heck is going on. You're just kind of taught, oh, she's bad because she looks like different than everyone else. So then like, as a grown up now, right, all these years later, finally seeing the true story of Wicked, I think it's just a beautiful thing that I finally, that I feel like I saw Wicked at the right time in my life, if that makes sense. I have the complete understanding of what it really is. And, Elphaba, right, we truly see that she is such a leader. She's a true leader. She'll, stand up she stands up for what she believes in, which I absolutely love and respect. Anyone who does that, who, stands up for their beliefs and their opinions and what they believe and what they preach. But not only that, she also stands up for the rest of the people, even if they don't believe in the same things as her, have the same values, or whatever it may be. So I really love that about the character of Elphaba, that, she really stands up for everyone, and she truly is a definition of a leader. And she's someone that I feel like all leaders should look up to, right? Obviously, this is a fictional character, fictional story. I understand that. But at the end of the day, we can still learn how to be a leader by watching Elphaba in these movies. And then to talk about Glinda, right, for a little bit. Glinda is someone who has such a pure heart, a big heart, but she's kind of been misled in a way. And the way she, people she's grown up around, and all the rest of the people who live around her, she's kind of grown up in a way where it hasn't been helpful towards her. But with that said, she's always been able to still keep that pure heart and the pure intentions that she has, regardless of everyone's actions around her. And obviously, we see her and Elphaba when they meet in the first movie. We see the connection they get, and we see Glinda being so accepting and open to welcoming Elphaba in to their world there. And we see the love and appreciation that Elphaba gains towards Glinda. And they're basically like they're sisters at the end of the day. They're best friends, whatever term you want to classify it as. And in this movie, we see it starts off with Glinda. So yeah, basically we see Glinda as the queen of the Emerald City, and we see that Madame Marvel and Oz have kind of put her up there on that pedestal to be kind of the face, when really at the end of the day, Madame Marvel and Oz are the ones really running things behind the scenes, behind Glinda's back. But obviously, Glinda doesn't realize what the bad intentions that these two individuals have. But ultimately, we still see that she's struggling, and we see that she still does love and miss Elphaba. And at the time, right in the beginning of this movie, we see like the whole goal, everything they're preaching there in the Emerald City is to find the witch, right? To find Elphaba and to kill her because she's horrible, the wicked witch, all the stuff they say about her. But we see deep down that Glinda still really loves Elphaba, and she doesn't want any of this to be happening. And then, of course, there's Fiyero, played by Jonathan Bailey. I didn't mention, obviously, everyone already knows. Elphaba is played by Cynthia Erivo, and then Ariana Grande plays Glinda. But yeah, then you think of Fiyero, played by Jonathan Bailey, and he's freaking awesome. He's a great character. We see him, engaged to Glinda, right, early in the movie without proposing to her. So it kind of speaks to the weird power dynamics that go on there in the Emerald City and all the shady stuff that's run behind the scenes by Madame Marvel, and by Oz. So ultimately Fiyero does agree to get engaged to Glinda, but we could tell that his heart's not truly in there to be with Glinda. And we notice throughout the movie that he still, has a lot of love in his heart for Elphaba. And, we go back to the first movie and remember the connection, right? The Elphaba and Fiyero had. And, so it's really cool. Ultimately, Fiero's put in charge since he is, the partner of Glinda. He's basically the head of the army in a way, like their sort of army there to go and find, Elphaba and kill her. And ultimately, we see at one point in the movie that he leads the army, to go find Elphaba, and ultimately we see that he sees Elphaba, but he says, "Oh no, I don't see her." And so basically that gives you clues that he's trying to help Elphaba, and he's still the same good-hearted guy from the first movie. Although I will say there was moments throughout the movie that was kind of confusing it, because I did feel from the beginning that Fiyero was trying to find and help Elphaba. But then there's certain moments where you're like, wait, is he switching sides? Is he switching teams? But ultimately, towards the end of the movie, we see that he is still Team Elphaba and he wants to be with Elphaba. I am giving some spoilers here. I didn't give spoilers really when I recapped the first movie last year, but with that said, I will mention, a title and description of this episode that there will be some spoilers. But yeah, ultimately, there's a part in the movie where, we see Elphaba come in back to the Emerald City. She's visiting Glinda, and then we see Glinda brings her in and tells her that Oz wants her to be part of this. And then we see Oz and Glinda, basically talking to Elphaba and trying to entice her to be part of the Emerald City and be part of like the kind of the leaderboard, if you want to call that, of the city, so that people could love her. And then ultimately she's given a clue, right? Elphaba, by one of the flying monkeys, that he kind of opens a door, and then she goes inside and realizes that Oz has a bunch of animals in cages, including Professor Dillamon, who we know from Wicked Part 1, where he was the professor of all these individuals while they're students there at Shiz University. So yeah, she notices that all these, animals are locked in cages. They can't talk anymore. They're being held basically hostage at the end of the day. So ultimately, she realizes that, and basically, I don't want to spoil the whole movie. Obviously, it's a long movie too, so I don't remember every single detail. So I don't want to like mislead or say the wrong words in a way. But ultimately, Fiyero ends up helping Elphaba. Uh, so basically, Elphaba gets all the animals to escape, right? She opens all the cages, they all escape. And while that is going on, the animals run into a venue where Glinda and Fiyero are getting married. And then ultimately, Elphaba is able to trap Oz where he had all the animals, in cages. And then Fiyero comes in, and ultimately Fiyero sides with Elphaba, and then him and Elphaba run off together. Then Glinda's heartbroken. She's not heartbroken about the animals or anything like that. She's heartbroken because she truly believed that Fiyero wanted to be with her, and she's also heartbroken because at the end of the day, Elphaba's like her best friend. So to see her best friend and then her fiance run off together, obviously that would hurt anyone. So it was understandable at the moment, but ultimately I feel like it would have been better if Glinda would have been able to fully understand the situation. But at the end of the day, I can't blame her. I feel like anyone would get sad in a moment like that. So yeah, those are some of the highlights of the movie or some of the things I wanted to talk about. And then this is a big spoiler. You know, I'm not spoiling every single detail, like I said, being that this is such a long movie and we are covering sports on here as well. So I can't make the whole thing just about Wicked, but it's a huge spoiler. So for those of you that doesn't haven't watched, please like fast forward right now. So yeah, basically a big part in this movie, we see that Elphaba, she basically it seems like something's gonna happen where she's most likely gonna get killed. So then her and Glinda have a moment together where they're basically saying their final goodbyes to each other. Now we hear the iconic song "For Good," you know, like "Wicked for Good," and that song is just absolutely amazing. By the way, I was playing in my head nonstop the rest of that day after watching the movie. But yeah, it's such a good song. All the music was amazing. I heard a couple of the songs are from the Broadway play, and then I heard there's a lot of new original music for this specific movie. So I thought all the music was amazing. Cynthia obviously sings incredible. Ariana sings incredible. They all did a great job here. But yeah, so basically that's such a powerful moment, probably the most powerful moment in the whole movie. That ultimately, you know, they part their ways, right? Glinda and Elphaba, they part ways, and then ultimately we see that you know, a couple scenes later that Elphaba did not you know, end up dying. She ended up hiding, and basically she was found by Fiyero. And I hadn't said this yet, but Fiyero was basically, you know, beaten to death. And he comes out and opens this area where Elphaba had been hiding, and we see Fiyero is no longer looking like what he has looked like throughout these movies, but now he is looking like a scarecrow. And that also leads to a big point of this movie, or a big theme, which is the Wizard of Oz. We see Fiyero turns into the Scarecrow from Wizard of Oz. See Bach. Bach turns into the Tin Man from Wizard of Oz. And then we also see a Dorothy character. We see the lion from the Wizard of Oz as well, voiced by Coleman Domingo. And yeah, basically, you know, the whole Bach storyline, I didn't talk about it here, but like I said, we are talking about sports on this episode as well. So I don't, at the same time, just want to talk about Wicked on here. In a later date, I may, you know, dive deep into different themes that I didn't cover in this specific, you know, recap of Wicked for Good. But yeah, it's going to wrap up my thoughts. You know, these are some of the things I wanted to get out there. And also, once again, shout out to Cynthia Erivo, Ariana Grande. They did amazing. I also want to really shout out Ethan Slater, who plays Bach. I thought he did a hell of a job as well. Jeff Goldblum as Oz did amazing. Jonathan Bailey, that guy, he's an absolute superstar. He's had a great career in theater. Now we've seen him move to these blockbuster franchise movies like Wicked, the Jurassic World series now with Scarlett Johansson. And yeah, those are some of the people I wanted to shout out. And then a couple, like, you could call them minor characters because they're not seen throughout the whole movie. But Bowen Yang, of course, the star of Saturday Night Live, and then Bronwyn James. They play these two characters that basically are like the sidekicks of Glinda in a way throughout the first portion of Wicked for Good. And I just thought they provided such great like comic relief, and then they also provided like, okay, at least Glinda does have some people who actually care about her here. It's not just Elphaba at the end of the day. So I just wanted to shout out Bowen and Brownwell really quick. I thought I did a great job in those minor roles. But yeah, guys, it's gonna wrap up my thoughts on Wicked for Good. Hope you guys enjoyed hearing my thoughts. If you're watching here on YouTube, you want to give me your thoughts on Wicked for Good, make sure to drop them here below in the comment section. You can also let us know your thoughts via Instagram or TikTok at @theflame_ES. Like I said a little while ago, eventually down the line, I may cover some more themes that I didn't necessarily dive deep into in this specific recap. But yeah, with all that said, shout out to everyone part of Wicked and Wicked for Good. And John M. Chu as well, the director of both of these movies, did a hell of a job. So congratulations to him and the rest of the team part of Wicked. And yeah, guys, going to wrap up my thoughts on Wicked. And now let's dive into the sports world as I give you all an update on what's going on in the NFL right now, with just 4 games left to play for each team and a lot of playoff spots up for grabs. All right, guys, so for the first time in a while, now we're going to be talking some NFL. Of course, you know, over the past few months or so, I've covered the Dolphins on here from time to time. But this week, I decided to cover the NFL as a whole, being that we have just 4 weeks left of the regular season. There's a lot of playoff spots up for grabs, a lot of tight races in certain divisions and conferences. And I'm gonna start off with the conference that I believe has the most viable Super Bowl contenders, in my opinion, and that is the NFC, and it's specifically three teams in one specific division, the NFC West. Right now, we have the LA Rams as the one seed in the NFC. They're 10-3. Then in their same division, we have the Seattle Seahawks, who also have the same exact record, 10-3. And then we have the San Francisco 49ers, third place in that division at 9-4. And that division specifically, I want to start off with the Rams. They're the team I've really called the most legit Super Bowl contender for the majority of the season. Other teams have had great seasons, including Seattle and San Francisco. You look at the AFC, you look at Denver, the Chargers, they have great records. New England's done a great job in the NFC as well. Chicago, they've been a great surprise. And, there's been teams who have been doing a great job, but I just truly feel that the Rams, being that they have the experience, they have more experience compared to the majority of these teams. I've truly believed in them overall as a unit. And obviously, Matthew Stafford, he's done a hell of a job. He's been in that system under McVay for so long already. And even as he gets older, he just continues to get better somehow. And then Sean McVay, arguably the best coach in the league, he just continues to find ways week in and week out, season in and season out, to adjust, to get better, and to continue to put his guys in the right position to succeed. And then someone I want to shout out, part of the Rams as well, is Chris Shula. Second year there as a defensive coordinator, and I think he's just done an absolutely amazing job. Last year, he had a group of young guys, and if you really watch that Rams defense last season, you truly saw the progress from week one all the way to the end of their run in the playoffs. And now you look at what he's done in year two, and that defense is even better already. And they're just continuing to get better as the season's, gone along. So I really think that's a key aspect as to why I think the Rams should be considered the number one favorite right now to win the Super Bowl, because they truly have a team with two units that are run by two of the top coaches in the league, with McVay running the offense and with Shula running the defense. And now to move on to Seattle. This is a team, man, that they've greatly surprised me this year. Obviously, last year and the years prior, they weren't bad, but they weren't necessarily great. They had a lot of offensive line issues last year. Mike McDonald, he came in from the Ravens, and people weren't really sure about him. Obviously, we all knew he was a great defensive coach, but the offense looked so weak last year that many people had questions coming into this season. They brought in Sam Darnold, who had a great year last year with Minnesota, but prior to that, hadn't been too great in his previous landing spots. And ultimately, this year, Seattle, to get away from their offense, I got to start out with the unit that's really put them at the top of my contenders list, and that's their defense. Like I said, Mike McDonald, the head coach, he's been a tremendous defensive coach in his career. But what he's done in Seattle right now, and a shout out to their front office as well, they truly emphasized this season on getting multiple pass rushers. In my opinion, they followed the recipe that Vic Fangio and Howie Roseman and all those guys in Philly did last year, where remember in that Super Bowl against Kansas City, Philly had around 7 or 8 guys that they kept throwing and rushing Patrick Mahomes there. And you look at Seattle, and they're one of the rare teams this year. They might have the best pass rushing unit in all of football. I know people can make an argument for Houston right now, and I get it to a certain extent. Houston might have the best pass rushing duo in the league, but I feel like Seattle has the best overall pass rushing department, because, like I said, they're like the Eagles of last year, where they just could keep throwing guys at you. They give their starters a break, and it doesn't matter because the guys coming in behind them continue to produce as well. And then you look at their linebacking core, their secondary, they're able to hold up and really provide complementary football in a way to the elite pass rush that they have in front of them. And then offensively, I mean, Jackson Smith and Jigba, he's been arguably the best wide receiver in all of football this year. Sam Darnold's done a hell of a job. The one thing that I think has gotten better within the past few weeks, but if it's truly able to be more consistent, can really make Seattle the true favorite in the NFL for the Super Bowl this year, is the running game, because they have Kenneth Walker, who's by far like a top 10 running back at minimum in the league. And then you have Zach Charbonnet. So you have one of the best, rushing duels, right? One of the best running back duels in all of football, and Walker and Charbonnet. And that offensive line, though, that's the key in the engine that's truly helped, in terms of on the field. Obviously the offensive coordinator and the whole offensive staff, they truly worked wonders for Seattle this year. But that offensive line is the engine that keeps them going on the field. And that's been the main reason on the field why the Seattle offense is so much better this year than they were last year. And with all that said, they still haven't been at their best, and they're 10-3. So just imagine if they're able to continue to get better, as we head into the playoffs, because I think Seattle could really make a run. And then the third team in that division, as I said early on, San Francisco. Going into this season, my prediction was San Francisco to win the Super Bowl. And I'm fine with that prediction still. I know, Fred Warner's out, Nick Bosa's out, Brock Purdy missed a bunch of games, George Kittle was out for a while, Ricky Pearsall missed this guy missed that. At the end of the day, when you have arguably the best coach in the league and Kyle Shanahan and arguably the best defensive coordinator in the league and Robert Saleh, you're gonna have a chance to win every single week. Like any game that San Francisco has a chance regardless of their personnel. So that's why I never count out San Francisco, and I still think they could go on a magical run and win the Super Bowl. So yeah, I wanted to start off with those teams, guys, because like I said, I just feel they're the three true Super Bowl contenders in my eyes right now, and they all hail from the same division, the NFC West. So shout out once again to the Rams, the Seahawks, and the San Francisco 49ers. Keep doing what you're doing. Then you look at the rest of the NFC. So as I said earlier, the Rams are number one. We have Green Bay at number two right now, followed by Philadelphia, Tampa, Seattle, San Fran, and Chicago. Obviously, Chicago's been an amazing story. They're 9-4 with a rookie head coach and Ben Johnson, second-year quarterback and Caleb Williams. They brought in a bunch of veterans, and specifically, I want to shout out Ryan Pace, their GM, because what he emphasized in and what him and Ben Johnson collaborated on was establishing a better offensive line. They brought 3 veteran offensive linemen, including Joe Thuney, the multi-time Super Bowl champ with the Patriots and the Chiefs. And I think Thuney and the rest of those veterans have truly helped Chicago blossom into an amazing offense. And Ben Johnson specifically emphasizes the run game. And I absolutely love that. And, you look at DeAndre Swift, he's had a tremendous year, but also their rookie, Kyle Monagai. I hope I pronounced that right. It's a tough name to pronounce, but Monagai, he specifically, I think he's going to be the ultimate X factor for that Chicago offense. And then their defense has been great, led by a veteran and Kevin Byard, who spent a lot of great years with the Tennessee Titans. And you look at what they've been able to do as an overall unit, and it's been amazing, right? Their defense has really been the engine that's kept them going. And then we've seen their offense have these moments and these splashes where they can really do big things, but they haven't ultimately been able to put it fully together because the passing game still isn't completely there. I feel a lot of that is in a way a lack of weapons, and then in a way that the rest of the league is kind of figuring out how to stop the pass offense of the Bears. But ultimately, they still have been a great story, and they're doing a hell of a job. I'm not going to get into each team because I'd be here for probably an hour talking about this. Now let's move to the AFC. Where I'll say that the true contender in my eyes is the New England Patriots at 11-2 right now with Mike Vrabel. He got there this year. He's completely changed the whole culture, the whole vibe. He's brought back a winning culture back to the New England Patriots organization, which they had for so many years, prior to Vrabel's arrival with Belichick and Brady for all those years where they won all those Super Bowls. So yeah, they currently sit at 11-2. What I love about New England, Mike Vrabel, for those of you that don't know, he's one of my favorite coaches in the league. I always call him one of the rare elite coaches in the league. And I think this year people are finally giving him his flowers for the first time. And then you look at what he did in 7 years in Tennessee, but not much talent, not much there to work with. And he went above and beyond. He went to the AFC Championship. He won multiple playoff games, and he did a tremendous job. Now you go to New England. It's the most talent Vrabel's ever had as a head coach. And you look at what he's doing already in year 1, and it speaks volumes to the type of coach that he is. You look at what they're able to do defensively. They have these linebackers that it feels like you're watching football in the 80s and 90s that they just hit you hard. They time it perfectly. They're high IQ individuals there on the field. And a guy I want to emphasize is Christian Gonzalez. He hasn't played in every game this year. He's their number 1 corner. I believe he has the potential to be the best corner in the league. And he's someone I'm really keeping my eye on. I hope he's able to stay healthy, because he's going to be a big part of whether or not New England makes a deep run into the playoffs. Then offensively, just like what Ben Johnson did in Chicago, he wanted more offensive linemen. Vrabel's brought in that same mentality to New England, and he did that in Tennessee. You think of the great running games with Derrick Henry and the elite offensive line play they had over there. He's doing the same thing in New England. They brought in a bunch of new guys to the offensive line. Will Campbell at left tackle, the first-round pick. Unfortunately, he's out right now. And then you bring in like a total opposite in terms of age, and Morgan Moses, who's almost 40 years old, in the right side of your line. He's done a tremendous job. And then you look at their running game right now. It's really heating up. The running game is at their best right now. They've been able to do this with a shaky running game, but right now, Travion Henderson, the rookie out of Ohio State, he's doing a tremendous job. I wasn't super high on him in this specific draft, but honestly, he surprised me, and I actually really enjoy his running style. He's like an old-school running back. Then you pair him up with Ramondre Stevenson. I feel that even helps Stevenson even more. I don't feel that Stevenson is a true number 1, but I feel like Henderson should take the bulk of the carries, and then Stevenson, you put him in once in a while. and you will provide some good flashes here and there. And then obviously Drake May's done a hell of a job at quarterback. The receivers have stepped up. Stephon Diggs, I'm not his biggest fan. At the end of the day, he's greatly surprised me this year. And what I think it is Mike Vrabel, because Mike Vrabel doesn't take the BS that Diggs reportedly had in Buffalo and Minnesota. And, he's not going to take that. He wants guys that are committed to the program and committed to winning and doing whatever it takes to help the team win at the end of the day. And I think Diggs, for the first time in his career, or the first time in a while, he's truly, bought into a culture. And Mike Vrabel's just an absolutely amazing coach. So yeah, guys, some other teams I want to talk about in the AFC. So obviously Kansas City right now, they're out of the playoffs right now. They're 6-7, same record as Miami Dolphins. I mean, it's unbelievable. I'm just enjoying the ride with the Dolphins. But yeah, Kansas City, they're 6-7 with 4 games left. They've officially been out. They're officially out of the running to win a 10th straight division title. So they won 9 straight, which is absolutely mind blowing and amazing. But they do still have a chance to make it in as a wild card. Ultimately, my gut feeling, I know most people are super down, and I understand that, Kansas City doesn't look good right now. I still think Kansas City's going to sneak in. And I still think, call me crazy, they're my favorite actually to win the AFC. Of all the teams right in the top, I did want to praise New England because they're really the team I really believe over Jacksonville, Denver, Pittsburgh, Chargers, the Bills, Texans. But Kansas City is still my pick to win the AFC. Call me crazy. But going into this season, my predictions for the AFC Championship were Buffalo and New England, and NFC Championship were the Rams and the 49ers. But I still think Kansas City, regardless of all the struggles they're having right now, if they're able to somehow win these final 4 games and sneak into the playoffs on a 4-game winning streak, I think the sky's the limit, and they may be able to get that confidence back and that greatness back within themselves. Now to cover the Dolphins a little bit, obviously I got to give some thoughts. We're on a 4-game winning streak. We're 6-7. It's been an amazing ride to be part of. I'm just enjoying every second, just living in the moment and enjoying all the winning. So yeah, we won 4 in a row. The next up, we have a legitimately important matchup. The most important game of the season. We're playing on this coming Monday night in Pittsburgh against the 7-6 Pittsburgh Steelers. If we're able to win that game, we'll ultimately hold the tiebreaker over Pittsburgh, and that could literally be the difference in terms of us being one spot out or being the last spot into the wild card for the playoffs this season. So yeah, the Dolphins, ultimately, my opinion, the bread and butter of this 4-game winning streak offensively. For the first time in his career, Mike McDaniel has committed to the run game. These past 4 games, Devon Achane has been amazing. The offensive line has been incredible. Austin Jackson returning these past 2 games at right tackle has worked wonders for the offense as a whole. And then this past game against the Jets, we took him out in the 3rd quarter. And then we finished off with Jalen Wright, who had his best game of the season. And then Ollie Gordon continues to show tremendous flashes in his rookie year. So that's the offensive engine. And then defensively, Anthony Weaver continues to show why he's one of the best defensive coordinators in the league, and why he's one of the best, arguably the best head coaching candidate this coming offseason in the NFL. And I'm very worried as a diehard Dolphin fan that we're going to end up not bringing in Weaver, and we're going to end up losing him to another team who hires him as a head coach. I hope it doesn't happen because I truly believe this guy's going to be an amazing coach starting next season in the NFL. So shout out to Coach Weaver. He's done wonders with that defensive unit. Specifically, you look at the secondary, what they look like in week 1 and what they look like now. You would think we traded for a bunch of new players, and that's not the case. Weaver's continued to, he knows how to adjust. He knows how to put each guy in the best possible position to succeed. He did it last year. He's doing it again this year. Shout out to Jack Jones, Rasul Douglas. They're doing a tremendous job as our, outside corners right now. They're doing amazing. Minkah Fitzpatrick, as always. In the linebacker core, Jordan Brooks has been one of the top leading tacklers in the NFL basically the whole season. Then next to him, Tyrell Dotson has been amazing as well. The defensive line has started to finally pick it up. Chop Robinson's had a couple nice games recently. Zach Sealer's getting better as the season's gone on. And I think why Sealer's getting better is because the 3 fellow, defensive tackles next to him were rookies. We continue to improve and progress positively as well. Kenneth Grant, Zeke Biggers, and Jordan Phillips. So yeah, guys, those are some of my thoughts right now on the NFC, where I specifically highlight the Rams, the Seahawks, and the 49ers. So basically, the NFC West. And then the AFC, I really emphasize and highlight the Patriots, Kansas City. And as always, I had to give some thoughts on the Dolphins. Hope you guys enjoyed my thoughts on this, on the NFL and, this little update I did for y'all right now. If you guys want to share your thoughts with any of these teams right now and you're watching on YouTube, make sure to drop your comments down here below. If not, you can send us your thoughts as well on Instagram and TikTok at the flame_ES. But yeah, guys, that'll wrap up our NFL talk. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Flame Entertainment and Sports. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Please make sure to keep up with us on Instagram and TikTok at the Flame_ES. We'd also greatly appreciate if you could subscribe to our podcast, The Flame Entertainment and Sports, on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Hope you guys enjoyed hearing my thoughts on Wicked for Good and my thoughts on how the NFL is currently going right now with 4 weeks left of the regular season. And yeah, guys, with all that said, till next time, everyone, take care.